Okay, today is August 23rd, 2013. My name is Carrie Andrew Crittenden. It's about 5 minutes past 1. And what are your names?
Scotty Harris.
Francine Stevens.
And you have a case involving the Santa Clara County Council, Department of Social Services. And I understand Judge Manukian, Santa Clara County Court Judge Socrates Manukian in Department 19 plays a role in this also.
Yes.
Could you state the case number and a little bit about your case and the relationship between the different players?
The Santa Clara Juvenile Dependency case number is JD 20223, JD 20224.
And when did that occur?
October 29th, 2012, and the 30th, the next day.
And a brief summary, maybe a couple paragraphs of what happened to lead up to you guys being taken to court.
We entered court representing ourselves. We had to fire our representation in children's court due to misrepresentation. And Judge Daniel Nishigaya accepted our abilities to proceed pro per or per se.
Yeah.
Was the attorney that you fired, was that a county
The
attorney?
county appointed, yes. Mine said told me on the phone that they hit the wall back in October 2011.
What was the attorney's name?
John Neiman's office. He's the supervisor of the people they appoint you to.
How did the attorney not represent you properly?
They don't appeal anything. One time they told me not to go to court. And at that time, they made allegations that I couldn't speak against, and the judge ruled over it. And I said she has no grounds to base facts on to say that those allegations were true.
Sounds familiar.
I actually filed a 170 against that judge. That would be Judge Teresa Daly Guerrero.
Okay.
And then we got
Guerrero
Nishigaya. And then Nishigaya had allowed us to represent ourselves. Due to the fact that the attorneys told me they hit the wall, because what happened was a DA named Lisa Rogers, who was fired last year, she had 5 other incidents before she was fired for false documentations and making false statements. She had accused me of violating a contact order. Let me tell you first, my daughter Linda, the oldest one, went to her father back in November 5th, 2011, no, 10. She went to live with her father in Arizona. And this county, Santa Clara County, had terminated their jurisdiction over her. The final order was visitation, mail contact, and any other discretion under her father. So her father allowed Facebook contact, and he had even written a letter saying, I permit my daughter and I am supervising everything. And they terminated their jurisdiction over her because technically they don't have jurisdiction over her when she moved out of the state. If a child lives 6 months out of the state, they have absolutely no jurisdiction over her. And a year later, they tried to tell me I broke a contact order through Facebook.
Who's they? Who's
Tony O'Carey, who was the case management in the FCS.
Okay.
Lisa Rogers had faxed over just one page. I don't have it today, but I could show you when I get it, because I am also going to send it to the district attorney's office. She had said I had violated my orders. So I contacted my defense attorney, the public defender's office. They looked into it, and they couldn't find anything that she was making allegations on. So the social workers ran with it. They contacted my facilitator on the very last day of my class. I completed 2 52 weeks classes. On the very last day I was there, she was supposed to give me both of my certifications. I had to sue her. Don't ever go to New Beginnings. That's
Okay.
her name was Sally Denenberg.
Okay,
This is I'm actually suing her with an unlimited, civil unlimited lawsuit for the damages she's done in my case.
well, we can maybe break it down
Okay.
into,
What happened?
well, yeah, of course, that's important.
Okay.
But maybe the roles played by the different agencies. We've got the Department of Social Services, which has subdivisions. CPS is one of them, the Public Guardian, APS, whatever. So I guess you guys dealt with CPS and the Family Court, right?
The Department of Family and Children's Services.
Gotcha. Okay, the county council office is, they're like the main law firm for the county.
Mm-hmm.
There's a public defender and DA, they play different roles. The county council, Ori Korb, the notorious Ori Korb, he's the head of county council, I guess since March. And he's already, understandably, stirred up quite a bit of public outrage for, since he's been in office. But the county council basically is subdivided into teams. And they're like tentacles that will reach out and do different county functions, and they've got different people that are assigned to the Department of Social Services to work on areas with that. Who are the county council attorneys?
Joanne Hugh
Okay.
was one of them, and she had written false statements on her reports,
Okay.
which I have challenged them on.
Do
She
you
said,
have copies of the false statements?
I have it in that bag that I'm still waiting for.
Okay.
Maybe we can call you another time, I can show you all the documents.
Wonderful.
Because I'm getting ready to also send that over to the district attorney's office, because I am filing a criminal complaint against everybody who's involved.
Cool.
Yeah, she had said that I had not made any substantial efforts to complete my case. They all showed up when I showed them the certification. I had to sue Sally Denenberg, who runs the facility of the classes.
Have you brought any of this to Ori Korb's attention?
He's involved in this case to defend Arlene Razul, who is the county counsel for the social worker, and Joanne Hugh, because they had wrote allegations and supporting his lies. Anthony Bucard and Carrie, the social worker.
Okay, but does Ori Korb personally have knowledge of what's happening with the improprieties of his staff?
He's representing them in federal court,
I see.
district court.
Okay.
I'm suing him for breach of duty
Okay.
and negligence, because they didn't do whatever they could to make sure that that document from a district attorney who has a reputation since 2002, and I have it posted all over the internet. Mercury News, a lady named Tracy
Kaplan?
Kaplan,
Okay.
had been following the Lisa Rogers story. And she exposed everything, that she's been disciplined 5 times before she got fired. And for the same thing, but she faxed over a piece of paper saying that I violated a contact order, which I did not. And my defense attorney had written the courts addressing that issue, saying that that's not true. But they still ran with it. They didn't go out of their way to make sure that that document was indeed a fact. They just, when I asked the county council who represented me at the 111 St. John Street right there,
Okay.
the advocate, who they appoint you to, the public defenders. Anyways, when I asked her, I said, well, the court rules with hearsay, when they speak of the children, what they said, that shouldn't stand in court because they're not there. It even says so when you look up hearsay,
Right.
even for dependency, juvenile dependency court. Well, her answer was, the one who's representing me now, she said, that's exception of the rule. They have more credibility than you or anybody else goes in there. So whatever they write and say, they'll believe it's true.
Who made that statement?
Maya Sorensen,
And she's an attorney.
yeah, for the
You
parents.
don't happen to have her state bar number with you, do you?
For For Maya, I don't.
That's it, it's cool, we know who she is.
Maya Sorensen, it's Maya. Her last name is Sorenson, I believe.
Okay.
Sorensen.
Source.
Can you tell me a little bit about what happened in Judge Manukian's courtroom, Department 19, and why you believe there may be a collusive arrangement between Manukian, who's a state court judge, and the county council?
Yeah. We were allowed to represent ourselves by Daniel Ishigaya. We had to dismiss the next judge, which was Judge Yu, who then it got passed to Judge Manukian. So we were still representing ourselves when we entered Manukian's court, and everything changed from that point when we were allowed to represent ourselves. And with Francine learning law and how to write it, and how to present it. So we went in there and we were successfully actually making some progress, especially Francine here. She was able to subpoena at least two witnesses.
Other
Excellent.
social workers, they were visiting supervisors.
Okay.
They're in charge of the visits with my kids.
Yeah, so these individuals kept track of what went on during visitation. They sit there with the mother and or father, in this case just the mother, and record everything on paper. And when they were put up on the stand, they revealed that nothing had ever happened. There was no detrimental visits. The opposing counsel, Arlene Razul, and the social worker, Anthony Inoku Okiri, were frantic, and they were in a state of panic because they didn't want this in this court setting, which is outside the children's court. It's not a secret. The children's court is secret. You don't get witnesses. You don't get your evidence to be presented. They just hide it and bury it.
In fact, with Hugh, they were trying to stop my witnesses. They were
Was that the courts or the county officials or both?
I'm sorry, you
The courts or the county officials or both?
the county official, yes.
And the courts.
Hugh, there was grounds for disqualification because she was actually friends with the social worker's supervisor. Her name is Marla Johannings.
Okay.
She's with the gay and lesbian domestic violence group,
Okay.
which Hugh also served in outside. So if a judge served a function outside the court with an individual who's involved in the case, she was supposed to not take the case, period.
And that's in the canons.
Yes, and she took it anyways. And you know what she said on the record? Oh, we're all friends here. She even bragged about it. Oh, I know Marla. We work together, blah, 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 blah. She's my colleague. But it's beyond that. It's the fact that there are grounds for disqualifying a judge if you could prove, and it's all over the internet. I also printed it out and gave it to them for the 170 to disqualify a judge, and that's why she was removed off the case. But she didn't properly answer the paperwork that she was supposed to within 10 days. And she agreed with everything that went on that court. And I told her on the microphone, on the record, I cannot have a fair and impartial hearing or trial with you.
Thank you for sharing that. Scotty, what happened with Manukian?
So we were making progress in Manukian's court with the subpoenaed witnesses and testimony of the witnesses. Manukian was, pretty much, at the time, we thought he was fair and non-biased, and I believe he was in many ways. I know that Manukian had lost his son in the war.
Right.
So, because we did some background on Manukian, and like we do with all judges, we try to find out who they are, and why they might be making the decisions they are, what kind of background. I think that's important, is to know who you're dealing with. And, but Manukian, let me just say in a nutshell, my feelings about the whole thing with Manukian. I believe he was doing kind of what most of the other judges do, putting on what I call a show. And his show was, we're having this not in the secret children's court, we're having it here. The parents will go with this, and they'll calm down because they'll feel like they have a real judge in front of them, and we're going to see how much I can feed these parents the illusion that they're going to get like a fair trial.
Okay.
The trial was not going in the opposing representation in their favor. It was going against them completely. The scales were going like this. Us up here, and they're falling like this. And when it got to that point where the scales were about to touch, Manukian came back and said, "Yeah, I can't make a judgment on this. I'm going to be passing this back to the children's court, and I'm just going to let the appellate court deal with it." So it's my belief that Manukian did not want to be the judge, and it seems like no one wants to be the judge, that makes an impartial, non-biased judgment on anything that has gone on in our case. They seem to keep passing it on and burying it, and they seem to want us to be quiet.
Right.
And with Manukian, it wasn't happening because they had failed so many times. Manukian was the 5th judge. All 4 judges previous they didn't know how to deal with this. They didn't know how to, because you got 2 innocent parents who haven't done anything, who had their rights destroyed and their children taken away. Now they don't want a lawsuit because if they admit guilt, that they came into our home, stole our children without a warrant, without any evidence as to anything going on.
Right.
And they were there 2 days prior, the police. Everything was picture perfect.
Do you have the police case numbers?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. I'd also like to get a testimony of what happened with the San Jose Police Department. Eventually, we can do a million videos and stay focused on the different segments at a time, if you know what I mean.
So, I'm not finished, but I'll be in just a sec. So, just to finish about Manukian,
Okay.
My finishing thing here is that it's my belief that Manukian, because it wasn't going it wasn't going in favor of the county, the representation was failing because they had nothing. He couldn't make a judgment because we were winning, and the county doesn't want that. Because if the parents win, then the parents can follow through maybe with a big damaged lawsuit against the county.
You're right.
So, he passed it. He passed it back into the children's court to a 6th judge, who we now presently have. And I'm really upset about that, because I really wanted to like Manukian, but now I don't have any respect for the man, and especially as a judge.
Would it be fair to say that Manukian intentionally skewed the results of your court case in a manner to where it would affect the county, the Santa Clara County?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's no doubt.
And you believe that he did that to affect things that were happening in another court department, another courtroom under a different judge. That's the pattern that I'm trying to illustrate here.
Sure, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That sounds very much the same as what happened to several cases. The fraudulent eviction of Heidi Yallman, which is 112 CV 226958, which was, we walked into Department 19. It seemed like it was a play. to play. I was supposedly a defendant. They had made, the apartment complex made several criminal allegations. None of them had any basis in fact. There was never any police reports filed, never any, no criminal charges, nothing. They even used a fake name on the, they sued me under a fictitious name. My guess is to shield themselves from a libel suit. It was just nuts. And then what ended up appearing after some research is that several individuals had very similar experiences with Mnuchin in Department 19, and that to where he appeared to be sabotaging the cases, to in most cases have skew the results of court cases occurring in Department 3, which is under Judge Kane. And a connection between the two courts and nexuses between the case numbers in Department 19 would each have a nexus to a case number in Department 3, and many of them contained HUD violations by the public guardian. Just wanted to throw that in on the record. So you think something similar happened with you guys?
As far as the showing goes, and when I was sharing about how they put on a show, it's always been that way with us through all the court hearings.
Okay.
Their pattern is they put on a show. They try to hopefully, they're hoping that you believe what's going on is real. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that Judge Nishigaya, who was the judge before Mnuchin, right? He actually left juvenile dependency court and went back to criminal. But one of the reports he did send me was, our case is surrounded by the social worker's allegation. Because he did tell me when he was up there that he will investigate himself. So I know he found out that there was falsified documents from the DA's office to the social worker and ran with a lie. And I've proved they lied because I have the certification of completion.
Wonderful.
And when I showed that to Mnuchin, he threw a fit and told him, he basically said, that's not going to happen here in my court. You take this case and get out of here. That's basically what he told her. And he told her she's a liar, right to their face. But the only thing that I felt we got out of Mnuchin's court was he gave us witnesses to go up there. And even though the county council had objected to it, he told her to sit down. And the social workers that I had called up there, they testified that there was no detrimental events that ever happened to any of our visits, which I had over 100 visits with this one particular person. And the county council had objected to that and said that there was this and that, and the judge actually told her, I don't find that.
One thing that I've been hearing from some people who've had experiences in Department 19 is claims that their court transcripts have been altered. Has everything appeared okay with you guys? Or?
I can't get any transcripts. Even though when I handled my own case for almost a year and a half, I've put in 2 requests for a couple documents for transcripts. They won't give it to me. And then when I give it back to the county councils who represented me, or the advocates, I've asked for the transcripts, and they said I can't get it. I can't even look at it.
See, the reason is in children's court, it's different than any other court. In our case, in anybody's case in children's court, they suppress everything. Nothing is open to the media. Nothing is open to the public. They cannot walk into the court. It's funny, when I posted a comment about that on a site, I had a comment, a reply, and someone said, secret court? There's no secret court. What are you talking about? And they don't know, or they're a debunker.
Right.
Meaning they're ignorant of the fact of what's going on, or they work for some social organization that's somehow connected. Not
It's pretty much
necessarily this county.
the abuse of privacy laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry about that.
I do want to audit, request an audit for the county to audit DCFS office because they are hiding a bunch of false documentations.
DCFS?
Yes, and also the county council, like Arlene Rizul and Joanne Hugh, with the false statements being in their reports.
In the county council,
Yes,
okay. Have you guys filed a whistleblower complaint?
you know what, I'd like to do that.
Okay.
This is the same thing I'm doing here, the watchdog citizens complaint.
I didn't see what you're working on there, but with a whistleblower complaint, generally it's handled by the county council's office. I believe it's a woman named Claudia Erickson, who's a member of county council staff that oversees it, and Ori Cord would be her supervisor. And being an attorney, he's legally obligated for any incompetency of his staff. And the quality of the performance. If I was able to obtain a copy of the procedure they're supposed to follow, if a whistleblower complaint to the county involves the subject of the complaint happens to be a county council staff, then this would be passed up the chain to the county executive's office under Jeff Smith. So.
I'd like to do that.
If you guys were going to say something to Jeff Smith right now, and I'll send him a copy of the video, what would you say are the things the county council did wrong that you would like him to investigate?
Everything.
I would like to say that they lack to comply with their duties. That includes researching and making sure that the reports contain truth, not in part, but in whole, as they are told under the California State board for the lawyers, bar,
Okay.
which I made a complaint against Razul, Joanne Hugh, and Rachel Fightmaster, because they took a lie with a false document, and they wrote a bunch of statements of allegations. And I've got the documents to prove that it's a lie.
They all follow tactics, all of them. They follow a pattern of tactics that they all use. They use tactics of derailment. They use tactics of passive-aggressive answers. They use tactics of I don't know what the word would be, something like putting a stop on something that's happening at the moment. Like if you want to present something to them or talk to them about something, then it's not really derailment, but maybe it is derailment. They'll say, this isn't the right time right now.
Okay.
We're not going to address that issue right now.
Gotcha.
We're waiting for the right moment. These are phrases that they all use, and I know that a lot of people out there have heard this with
Yeah.
if they've been represented the same way. And when I wanted to go back because I didn't get to finish talking about Manoukian.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And how it's a show, and that whole court was a show. They didn't know what to do because we had already had 4 previous judges. So they tried it in Supreme Court. They pulled it from Children's Court and actually put it in Supreme Court because it wasn't working. And we had been allowed by Nishigaya, I think,